One of Nolan Ryan's many records, and possibly the most unbreakable, was his 7 no-hitters, with his first coming in 1973 at age 26 and his last coming in 1991 at age 44. So let's look at the 7 no-hitters thrown by Nolan Ryan.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
Though his time on the Mets brought him his only World Series title, it wasn't until he was traded to the California Angels that he really turned into Nolan Ryan. With the help of pitching coach Tom Morgan, Ryan met his potential. He made his first All-Star game in 1972, pitching 284 innings with a 2.28 ERA, leading the league in walks and strikeouts for the first of many times in his career. In 1973 was when there was no doubt that he was one of the best in the game. He was great to start the year, striking out at least 11 in his first 3 starts. And 9 days after his May 2nd start, where he pitched 12 innings, his 8th start of the year would be rough, giving up 4 hits and 5 earned runs, as he would not make it out of the first inning. But he actually came out of the bullpen the next day and got a 2-inning save, the bullpen being where he was during much of his career on the Mets. But that save propelled him into his May 15th start in Kansas City. Ryan started the night with a strikeout and followed that with a walk to Steve Hovley, who stole second, and he wouldn't go anywhere as Ryan would strike out the side, and Hovley would be the only Royal to touch second. Going to the bottom of the 9th, Ryan had 11 strikeouts. Meanwhile, the Angels hadn't struck out once, and Ryan went out to the mound looking to accomplish something he had flirted with before, and he started by getting a pop-out. Then he struck out who he walked in the first inning in Steve Hovley, putting him just 1 out away, and he would get that out when Amos Otis flew out to right. And for the first time, Nolan Ryan had thrown a no-hitter, in a game where he walked 3 and struck out 12, compiling a 96 game score. And to those who paid attention, they were probably expecting that this would not be the last. After his first no-hitter, he would have 3 straight games with at least 10 strikeouts, and by the end of May, he had struck out 176 in 157.1 innings. And he would add 16 more before heading to Baltimore, where he would strike out 11, but he gave up 6 earned runs with 6 walks in 6 innings, that being the 4th time he did so. But his next start in Detroit would be the complete opposite. The Tigers were competitive that year, finishing 3rd in the AL East with 3 All-Stars, but that night, Ryan made them look like the 2003 Tigers. Ryan was absolutely dominant. He did walk 4, but unlike his start in Kansas City, no one even got to second base. He had struck out 17 through 8, and had a chance to break the single-game 9-inning strikeout record set by Steve Carlton and Tom Seaver, but he lost that chance after the first 2 hitters of the 9th grounded out, then lined out, and Norm Cash would be the final hope, as opposing fans were now cheering for Ryan. And as a joke, Cash went up to the plate with a table leg from the clubhouse. Obviously he couldn't use that, and the umpire let him know, but Cash said it didn't matter anyway because he could not hit him. After the umpire and Ryan were done laughing, Cash got his actual bat, and he actually did hit the ball, but it was caught at short. And for just the 4th time in MLB history, a pitcher threw 2 no-hitters in a season. This coming just 60 days after Ryan's first one, in a game where he walked 4 and struck out 17 for a game score of 100. This being the 5th time a 100 game score had been accomplished, with 2 of those coming from Ryan at that point. Along with making history on that night, Ryan would go on to make even more history, as on September 27th, in an 11-inning performance, he would strike out 16 batters for his 383rd strikeout of the season, breaking Sandy Koufax's record for the most in a single season, a record that still stands, and it resulted in the highest Cy Young finish of his career, that being 2nd place. It's insane that he never won a Cy Young, but 1973 may have been his biggest snub. Jim Palmer had the lower ERA, but Ryan accomplished something no one ever had. But in the time, win totals and team performance were way too big of a deal, which gave Jim Palmer the Cy Young. And Ryan continued to dominate. In 1974, he didn't make the All-Star team, but going into his final start of the season, he threw 323.2 innings with a 2.98 ERA while striking out 352. And in his 40 starts, he had yet to do what he did the previous year twice by throwing a no-hitter. Though he had a 1-hitter against his future team, the Rangers, he still hadn't got his 3rd no-hitter yet. But he had 1 more chance at home against the Twins, and what would be the most Nolan Ryan start ever. The main reason being, by the 5th, he had 7 walks, but he also struck out 9, and there was a 0 in the Twins' hit column, and he would calm down from there. Over the next 3 innings, he would walk 0 and strike out an additional 4, putting him 3 outs away from number 3, getting a chance to finally do it at home in front of a small crowd, only there to watch Ryan pitch for the last-place Angels. And he started with a flyout and his 14th strikeout. And the last hope for the Twins was pinch hitter Harmon Killebrew, who would be Nolan's 8th walk. And the other last hope was Eric Soderholm, who would go on to strike out for Nolan Ryan's 3rd no-hitter, making Ryan the 4th pitcher at the time to throw 3 no-hitters, doing so in a 16-month span in a game where he walked 8 and struck out 15 for a game score of 94, lower than the previous 2 because of the walks. There was now only one pitcher who had thrown more no-hitters than him, and that was his idol, Sandy Koufax. And when he woke up on June 1st, he did not think that would be the day he tied the record. In his previous 2 starts, he gave up 5, then 6 earned runs, taking his ERA from 1.83 to 2.7. And when he woke up on the first day of June, he had trouble moving his arm. He developed bone chips in his arm, and he had trouble extending his arm. But the pain disappeared when he took the mound against the Orioles at home that day. He wasn't as dominant as he had been in previous no-hitters, or many of his previous starts. As to 8 innings, he had only 8 strikeouts, with 4 walks. But the Orioles, who would go on to win 90 games, had no hits. And they still wouldn't have a hit when Al Bumbry and Tommy Davis flew out, then grounded out, Bobby Grich being the Orioles' last hope. And after a battle, Ryan threw a 2-2 changeup for a backwards K. And now, Ryan joined Koufax as the only pitcher to throw 4 no-hitters in a game where he walked 4 and struck out 9 for a game score of 92, his least dominant no-hitter because of his lack of strikeouts by his standards. After breaking Koufax's single-season strikeout record that was thought to be unbreakable, he was now going for another Koufax record that looked to be unbreakable, but it would take a while for him to get there. His 4th no-hitter was his last one with the Angels, and after the Angels told him he wasn't worth the money for his lack of wins, Ryan would go close to home in Houston and became not only the first $1 million baseball player, but also the first $1 million American athlete. And in between his 4th no-hitter and his 2nd year on the Astros, he struck out 1,351 batters in 1,274 innings, with a 3.33 ERA, as he made 2 more All-Star games and still couldn't get his Cy Young. And he still hadn't got another no-hitter after throwing 4 in the matter of 3 years. But you have to know there's always a chance whenever he took the mound. And almost 7 years after he threw his 3rd, Ryan was on the mound against a then-division rival and the future World Series champions in the Dodgers, and what would be his second-to-last start of a strike-shortened season. And after 3 loud innings to start, where he walked 3 and left 3 on base, Ryan went on cruise control. He retired the next 15 batters in a row, striking out 5 of them, putting him 3 outs away from number 5. And he would quickly be 1 out away, with the final hope being future Astros manager and toothpick enthusiast, Dusty Baker. And he would get him to ground out to 3rd to officially make Ryan the all-time no-hit king, in a game where he walked 3, all in the first 3 innings, while striking out 11 for a game score of 95. And as Ryan said, he thought his no-hit days were over after his 4th no-hitter. And as the years rolled on after his 5th, it looked like his pitching days in general might be coming to an end. His no-hitter in 81 would be his only one for the Astros in his 9 seasons on the team. And at the age of 42, he was moving on to the other Texas team in the Rangers. And he would prove that he was still great. He made the All-Star team in his first year on the Rangers, while receiving Cy Young votes for the final time, as he struck out 300 for the first time since 1977, when he was 30, with one of those strikeouts being his 5,000th. And no matter his age, you could never rule out a no-hitter. It's just that year, he had 3 one-hitters. But to start 1990, he was struggling, posting a 5.28 ERA through May, having to miss his next 2 starts. But after getting back to form in his next, he really showed that in the one after. On June 11th, Ryan was as dominant as he had ever been, going against the defending champion and future AL champions in the Oakland Athletics. Only Walt Weiss had reached 2nd through the first 8 innings, meanwhile he had walked just 2 and struck out 13. And after getting Ricky Henderson for the 2nd out, Willie Randolph was the A's last hope, as his own fans were cheering against him, as is often the case when an opposing pitcher is throwing a no-hitter on the road. And on the 3rd pitch, he would get him to fly out, and that would be no-hitter number 6. In a game, he walked 2 and struck out 14 for a game score of 99, a number he hadn't really come close to since his 2nd no-hitter in 1973. And when you're throwing no-hitters, it's hard to step away. He came back after finishing 1990 strong, and after starting another year with struggles, Ryan thought he may be done before his start on May 1st against the Blue Jays. He was dealing with back problems and told pitching coach Tom House, who went a long way in helping prolong his career, tell Bobby Valentine to have another pitcher ready just in case. But after a strong first, he told his teammates to get him just 1 run, because that was all he was going to need that night. They proceeded to give him 3 in the 3rd, and that was truly all he needed. He would retire 17 straight after the 1st, until he walked Joe Carter, which was his 2nd and last walk of the game. And during all of this, the crowd at the stadium grew as word spread that he had a chance for number 7. And things got very loud when his 15 strikeout came to end the 8th inning, putting him just 3 outs away. And after getting the first 2 on groundouts, the last hope was Roberto Alomar. His father actually played with Nolan Ryan when he was on the Angels, and as a kid, Roberto got lessons from Nolan, and now he was the only one standing between him and his 7th no-hitter. And 7 pitches later, he would get a 7th no-hitter with a strikeout, this being his 16th strikeout of the game, giving him a game score of 101, the highest of his career, and tied for the 4th highest ever behind Clayton Kershaw's 15 strikeout no-hitter, Max Scherzer's 17 strikeout no-hitter, and Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game. And Ryan did all this at the age of 44. Ryan would pitch 2 more seasons, and he wasn't able to throw number 8. But 7 is a number that probably will never be topped, along with the 50 other records he holds. The reason a no-hitter was always a possibility when he took the mound was along with having the most no-hitters, he also has the most 1-hitters, 2-hitters, and 3-hitters. However, he doesn't hold the record for the most 29 hitters by Eddie Rommel. And without the walks, Ryan could easily be the only pitcher to throw multiple perfect games. But he wanted to focus on setting another record, with 7 no-hitters being one of the greatest records in all of sports. In those 7 games, he struck out 94 and walked 26 for a K-to-walk ratio of 3.6, better than his career ratio of 2, with his average game scores in the no-hitters being 96.7, as all 7 were one of his record 31 games where he had a game score of 90 or more. And 2 years after throwing his 7th no-hitter, he set another record by appearing in the most frequently seen photo in sports bars. Hopefully you liked this video, and if so, please consider liking and subscribing for new videos every week. Thank you.